Hey, this is Nicholas with the Backyard TARDIS here with another top 10. Sorry I've been out of it for a while. I got sick there for a little bit, kind of lost my voice, and then have just been swamped with work. But I really, we want more Brad Wright's Stargate, so I've been wanting to get this out. My top 10 Stargate SG1 Season 3 episodes. So let's get right into it. My number 10 is episode 18, Shades of Grey. Here, I can recall the first time I saw this episode being really taken back because Jack is just acting out of the ordinary. Here he's stolen something from the Tolan, and he's just being a jerk about it. And he's back talking Hammond, and it's like, and he gets fired over it, and you're like, what in the world's going on? Turns out, the NID had secretly been stealing stuff from the Tolan, and so the Tolan set this plan in motion with them to discredit Jack so that the NID would be willing to pick him up. And so this allows Jack to infiltrate them, take them and Mayborn down, and capture Mayborn. So just an all-around good episode, especially for the shock value. Real good. Number 9 is going to be another one with the Tolan. That's episode 15, and this is Pretense. And this is where we get to see both the Tolan and the Nox come back, as we see Skara is come to the Tolan, and he's asking, they're trying to remove the symbiote, and the Gould side is saying, no, I have the right to this body. And the Tolan are like, well, this is kind of a moral dilemma, so we're going to call the Nox. And the Nox come in and act as a judge, and they let the two sides. So SG1 is, fighting for Skara. And then you get this Hittite god of the Gould come in to do that, and which is really cool because, you see a lot of Greek mythology, Babylonian, Norse, just Egyptian, a lot of that kind of stuff, but you don't really see a lot of like the Philistine type stuff. And as a Bible nut, I recognize these names and different things, so I thought that was cool. Just a great episode all around, and it's good to see the Nox. We didn't get enough of the Nox, in my opinion, and so it was good to see them here. And especially interacting with the Tolan, because it was Earth who introduced the Nox and Tolan together, so seeing that come back into play was cool to see. All right, my number 8 is episode 8, Demons. And this is the return of the Unas, and here we see they're on a planet, and one of the things I love is that it kind of looks like a medieval Catholic village. And, they're kind of like, you really think a Gould is posing as God? And Tilk makes the comment, I've read your Bible, and I do not think that a Gould would be able to hold the pretense of being something so benevolent. And and just Jack, wait, you read the Bible? And he's like, yes, haven't you? Well, of course, but it's big book, no pictures, which they reference later on down the line, kind of a thing when they're talking about the Ori. So I kind of had that click in my head going back and rewatching it. But instead, the Gould is actually posing more kind of as like a priest who is using an Unas as a monster to instill it as the devil. And the team at first thinks that the Unas is going to be the Gould, and they find out, no, it's just a regular wild Unas. The Gould is inside this priest guy who's using fear to control society, much kind of like the church did during the Dark Ages. There were many power-thirsty priests and stuff that controlled people that way. So I thought it was a really good look at that. Number 7. Episode 12, Jolinar's Memory. And this is, getting those memories of Jolinar that Sam's having, and this motivates them to go on a mission. But this mission kind of takes them sideways. They end up on a hell-like planet, and this is a two-parter. So I'm going to just say we're gonna combine this with my number 6, which is episode 13, The Devil You Know, because it ends with the cliffhanger of Apophis is alive. Yes, Sokar has this like prison planet where he forever tortures his things, and he makes it look like hell, so to speak. It's a kind of like a lava planet with steam and heat and fire and all that, and he has basically his punishment for Apophis is he's managing it for him. And so now it's like, well, we got to team up with Apophis to get out of here. But can we trust Apophis? No, we can't trust Apophis. And they get out, and this is going to have ramifications because Apophis dying was actually, he was the biggest of the system lords. So when he died, and they had video of him dying, it got a lot of Jaffa to leave their false gods and to come form the Jaffa Rebellion. However, when Apophis comes back from the dead, that like completely obliterates this faith change and makes some people just die hard. They no longer can be convinced that the Goa'uld are false gods because Apophis died and came back to life, as far as they understand. So, really cool episode. Had a lot of long-lasting impact for the franchise. My number 5 is episode 4, Legacy. This is one where they go onto this ship, and there's a bunch of dead bodies in stasis, and Daniel gets attacked, and he gets a bunch of minds downloaded into him. And he basically becomes like an ark for all these consciousness. And I love this episode just because the amount of acting that he has to do. Because he's a pompous leader, he's like a little 5-year-old boy, he's just these different things. And he should have won an award for the performance in this episode. Michael Shanks did an amazing job with this episode. So I don't really have more to say other than it's just phenomenal acting, really great to see him portray and pull that off. Number 4 is episode 6, Point of View. Here we get another parallel universe story, but this time Carter and Kowalski show up. So, they wrote Kowalski off right off at the second episode, and it's good to see him come back whenever they get a chance to do this. And, of course, they have maybe some not so pure motives, and everyone's so eager to accept them at first, but, I won't completely spoil the episode, but it is definitely good watch. And I like any time when Stargate gets all alternate dimension. My number 3 is episode 3, Fair Game. And this is interesting because this one is where the Thor is basically like, hey, we've got a big bluff. We've got our own enemy that we're dealing with. We don't actually have time to enforce things with the Goa'uld. So we can't actually come around and defend you. But what we can do is we can put you in this treaty we have with the Goa'uld. We've kind of basically said these worlds are protected, and as long as they don't advance, but we need to butter that out with the Goa'uld because we don't want them to start testing us because we can't actually show up and start defending you. So if we can just convince them to put you on that list. And here we see, like Kronos and Lord Yu, and one other Goa'uld. Was it Nerti? I can't remember right at the moment. But they come and they're bartering this, and it's just funny because it's like peace talks and negotiations and all this stuff, and it's with Goa'uld and Thor. And so it's just the way they're being it. And Lord Yu is one of my favorite Goa'ulds. So to see him And this is really cool, getting that Chinese Gould, and which makes sense because, the Egyptians and pyramids, it would make sense that the Chinese, Babylonians, and the Mayan and Aztecs, or was it Incans and Aztecs? Anyway, they all had temples that were pyramid style. So it would make sense that those cultures would also be Gould, if they were cultures, ancient civilizations that were building pyramids, seeing as those are landing pads. So it was cool to get, the Chinese Gould there. All right, now my number 2 is going to be episode 16, Ergo. This one is just fun because they get Ergo stuck in their heads. This is pure comedy gold. Pure comedy gold. He's going around. He's supposed to just be like a probe that's supposed to learn about them, but he's sitting there going, boring, boring. Do this, do that. And what's amazing is the one who directed this, it was his father who did it. I apologize, the name is escaping me, but I know he is an acting legend, and he was kind of towards the end of his life. He could barely even stand, and so they did this where he could either do the scenes while sitting down, or what they would do is he would have a chair, and they would have him stand up. They'd film his scene, and he'd immediately sit back down because that is physically all he could do. And it was really cool that he got to work with his son directing him and do that. But he got to play Ergo, which is just a fun character who's sitting there trying to get them to eat ice cream and do whatever's fun and experience because he's experiencing everything they are as this probe. Okay. That was my number 2. What could be my number 1? Well, my number 1 is episode 22, Nemesis. Yes, the replicators. We get to see the replicators for the very first time. And the replicators are probably my favorite. So, Ball is probably my favorite individual villain, but as far as bad species when it comes to Gould and Wraith and Ori and Replicators, Replicators is number 1 for me. I love the Replicators, and they were they were a big game changer because here we are, season 3, the end of season 3. Up until this point, everything in Stargate has primarily been about archaeology. It's been about this ancient civilizations but here with Nemesis is our first real introduction to sci-fi. Now, there's been episodes that have been sci-fi, but they haven't really had a long-standing effect, like the Tolan. The Tolan aren't some ancient thing that we had legends about. They're just an advanced society, but they don't really have a lasting effect on the franchise. However, the replicators do. But what's really interesting is the replicators do eventually come around back to being built by the ancients, the gate builders, and tied into all that archaeology and mythos and kind of, robots and all, this is where it comes from. The replicators are such a good bad guy because there is no feeling sad. They can sit there and go all Rambo on them and be shooting them, and you can watch action. They're not killing living things with the Jaffa. The more and more they started developing Teal'c, the more and more you felt bad. These guys have families. They're just being duped by false gods. You're out there slaughtering them. But with the replicators, it's no, go full tilt. We're wiping these things out. And they're such a cool enemy, and they finally kind of they bring depth to the Asgard, and it really is what establishes the Asgard's bond with Earth and with Nemesis, because the Asgard are so advanced that the concept of projectile weapons is beyond them. And these things are like impervious to all these energy weapons. And every time they throw more advanced technology at it, they just assimilate it like the Borg and throw it back at the Asgard. And so that's why the Asgard's getting their butts kicked, because they keep throwing more advanced stuff at it, and then these things just get more powerful. But here Earth comes in, we got bullets. and, you know, bullets still hurt. You know, all these fancy energy things like that, bullets still rip replicators apart. And there's not really a technological way against them. So, really cool to see this. Really good. Okay, my secret number 11 is episode 21, Crystal Skull. This is a fine episode, a good episode. Daniel Jackson having a really powerful moment with his grandfather, who, like him, was declared crazy because of his wild theories of going in, like a Mayan temple or whatever, and, saying he met aliens. And then it was like, well, Daniel, you had wild theories, you met aliens, maybe this is true. Goes in, finds out, yeah, this crystal skull teleports you to meet aliens. And I just want to say, this was done a couple years before the movie we shouldn't speak of, Indiana Jones 4. I mean, I know it's all based on a legend, but it's amazing at how many beats that movie copies from this, about like the grandfather type, Indy and his son versus Daniel Jackson and his grandfather, and going and how similar the aliens that they meet are, when neither of them look like human skulls. They all kind of have that like big like alien face. To me, why this one is worth mentioning, even though you would call it a filler episode, because it doesn't go anywhere. They don't acquire any new technology. This never comes up in another season. But they did it better than Spielberg did on the big screen with Indiana Jones. They did it better. And for me, that means this episode needs to get recognized. With that, I'll catch you in the next episode, but that's just my top 10 Stargate Season 3. Looking forward, been diving into Season 4, and I'll catch you in the next video.